object of the game is to be the first player to figure out who committed the crime, what weapon, and in what location. Lay out the place all 6 tokens on their matching color spaces in 6 players playing. Place all the weapons in separate. Shuffle the cards and place them face down on the table. Separate character cards and shuffle each of them separately. One random card for each inside the envelope. Shuffle cards together. Not all the cards. Some players. Here's our allowed. One off is one. Cards they have and cards that are. Plus the quantity as the presses. First, the play proceeds clockwise. Third, your character up to that spaces for This counts as one. Are not allowed to use the same space twice in the same turn. On to through the space called on. You must enter share. Sorry,
It's a tomb.
Start the track. Make suggestions. Say, suggest, start. Then, player to the left, secretly show suggestion. If they do, revealing it to you, your turn ends. If they don't, next player clockwise from them must reveal the card again. Continue around the players until one player shows you a card. Then your turn ends and no cards are shown. A maximum of one card can be shown for any suggestion.
I got cobblestone from trying to get to the place at least.
To you, then you do nothing and your turn ends. You are allowed to make one accusation per game. You may only do this on your turn, but you are allowed to do this right after making a suggestion. To make an accusation, you must be in a room, but it does not need to be the room of accusing. State the character, weapon, and location you are accusing to the group. Secretly look at the envelope. Are correct, reveal the cards and the game ends and you win. Are incorrect, lose. Put the cards back without revealing them and the game continues. You aren't eliminated, since you must still reveal cards from your game asked, but all your future turns are skipped. If everyone uses it correctly, then the game ends and everyone loses.
Hey there, my name is Ink. Today I'm back in Minecraft, but I can't stop moving.
Hi everybody, I'm here at the home sports team that has me as my hobby. Correct, good old Lord Stadia. It's quite as important as cars. So my car is Super Mario Troll. Mario Kart. For over 5 years, this series has driven its way into the hearts of many. So much of the series is iconic. The characters, the items, and especially the courses. Across all the entries, there's been so many places this colorful racing cars. But how many of them are not expected? Well, that's a complicated question. The Mario characters that might not be so bad, but everything not so much. So I went through the whole lineup of courses and evaluated how safe it is. Well, the actual reason and the spectators. I can confidently say, probably ultimately, this might be great. I said Mario Kart Deluxe, Street Course at 280 from all the first 8 games. I'm gonna munch up all the retro courses, all of those together, leaving us with a total of about 150 that currently covered what I know. I'm gonna be ignoring 4 exclusive tracks because I don't want to subject myself to 4 courses, except for Piranha Plant Type 1, that one's fine. Mario Kart Home's also gonna be skipped. I don't really know how that one's gonna be talked about. All the courses are probably okay if they can in your house. Also, just for the hell of it and to have a bigger number, I'm adding all the arcade GP games, not only since they're simple enough, but I'd do anything for happiness. Just because I can't do fun racing too. Because I like doing fun racing. I bumper speed up when it comes to road safety. I trust me. I split these courses into 5 games. And the first one is where I put the most viable private tracks. This here is known as from the go-kart tracks that are so simple with actual go-kart tracks. If I have 1 or 2 that I can say if, for example, the gas track great circuit, I fully believe this is one of them all. Wide turns, wide road, nothing memorable. It's forgettable, but it's acceptable. Really, effective confidence. Alright, you would have to go out of your way to bonus or vital organs on this. I should note that I'm ignoring item boxes in this ramble. Obviously, explosives and lightning aren't that good of an idea for all the babies on the raceway, making Baby Park go from one of the most chaotic tracks to one of the safest imaginable. I didn't really put that many courses here, so totally safe. Probably so treat this here like a back. They might be safe, but some of the last beloved guys. I'm also a bit shocked to say this as well, but a good amount of Diddy Kong and all the GP tracks were fun. Diddy Kong never lets me down, so I knew that. But what's going on here? Well, the 3 were going. All these tracks are actually driving. Most of these courses are simple hazards and honestly, straight out being added a massive focus on items that don't matter. The only exception in my eyes is Big Bowser Stack or it's really not that bad. The biggest potential offenders in this bundle are Yoshi Falls, Blue London. But I promise you, Yoshi Falls is fine if you added some more railings and remove access to the waterfalls. I trust Blue Island with my life. Nothing bad would happen recently there. And just like the rest of the UK, London Loop is a sad, great, flavorless place where nothing of interest happens. And some major changes will keep it about the same. Now, that's all the stuff I'd argue is fine, but the next year, honestly, still, yes, I think this next group's still okay. Welcome to the Salty Squidtoon, where only the toughest go-karters go to have 3 lap races. Are good at doing bigger, scary races. Moo Moo Meadows is the prime example of this bunch. There's gotta be major changes to the track. Only fine enough to where these changes would make the course play higher. Like, if I can't total my car on these towers, these tracks are absolutely here because they're hazardous to function. And look at these catapults to launch everyone. Peasant farm peasants. I guess Google Farm. Now, here's some of the courses that also belong. Throw them all together, because I don't like going through these tracks. A lot of them have the same issue. It's like a water hazard or some sort of random on the spot where you don't deserve that time, but that feature. I love the Royal Raceway, but I never can't allow that one jump. Now, if you need to talk about the Baby Road is one of the first things. Either the racers get shrunk down or they go to a giant left about something. This one, I'll make I think this is fine, otherwise just open up the construction of the area had questionable. Ultimately, it's still fine, they just need to revise that lighting setting. Now, the chain chomps are a funny reoccurring hazard in a lot of the tracks. Sometimes they roam free, other times they're stuck. You usually want that. This is a top offender of Peach Gardens, and this is an extremely bad habit of art. It's very excessive in sport.
wasn't expecting this as well. A Wario Coliseum experience. A Wario really does not value secret credit. Freaking provides for the all these sources of energy. Academic argument that all racers agree. This reminds me of that one scene part. I'm okay with it. Basically okay, we're recommend some high protection sand and salt water. Now, Boston building protection about this one. I'm sure a lot of you are too young to remember. Even though his iconic building is haunted and his backyard has some moving trees, it's miserable to live in, but not too bad for driving, though the cars are going to be tracking all the time. So that's up. The bridge! I love the bridge! The only reason Asian circuit is not lower is because of that one house shortcut. Otherwise, the roads were cleared up, there's traffic cones, perfectly safe. And look, my least favorite course! Fix that one turn and then it's fine. That's a big brain. I don't like driving in the plane. I'm sorry. Other than the plane starting off mid-race, I would argue this is fine. Practically harmless outside of the first segment of the first night. This would be fine if there was some sleep foam wrapped around. I wouldn't encourage pure racing. I totally endorse Mr. Resetti. I don't like it. Expect the place themed around fast underground trains to have fast underground trains, but I guess not. If you run into a parked train, that's your own fault. Star City is one of the last tracks in the race. It takes place on Earth, but I would assume it has oxygen. See, the place in this game already, like a lot of tracks, is dead. All the booster course 4 tracks share the trait with based on a real location, but you assume that all the Mario Eyes versions of these places and all of them would require closed roads and with the exception of this causing a ton of problems for the general public in these locations, but good enough of them are probably fine. The only true concern being the swamps in Tokyo or in the oil-ridden baseball sections of Los Angeles labs. Besides those things, I'm keeping all these guys here. Alright, Daisy Hills is the last of this year. This is where I really figure out what exactly the research parts. For all of this, I'm replacing Mario characters with regular people and everything else. I want to match exactly the conditions besides the engines. In Mario Kart by default, there's no safety equipment like helmets, but the cars can be held up with a glider and function underwater. I would assume that their safety stuff usually drive underwater, and I don't have the budget to confirm that. Most importantly, the lack of seatbelts can be extremely uncomfortable for some of these courses. This is going to be unbelievable. Next, there's Tier 3. When a track is that's it. It means that there are several variables important now or significant signs of the tracks that used to be required. Dolphin Shoals, as beautiful and as incredible as this one is with that alto sax that makes you smell colors. It has a lot of water. If a course has water, the challenge of poor eyesight underwater, plus needing to hold our breaths, there's not a single instance where the actual racers are prepared to drive underwater except for that one. So good luck trying to do this one underwater in a dark cave for 3 laps. The same logic applies to Bootleg, Cheap Cheap, Wario Shipyard, Amsterdam, Piranha Plant Pipeline, and especially Piranha Plant Cove. So much can go wrong here. Like, so much. When it comes to gliding, I would argue it's a bit more lenient, like the car would have less resistance to higher winds among all that stuff. Courses like Rock Mountain, Shy Bazaar, Singapore Speedway, and Manga share several problems, and this is one of them. Come go-karting with friends, if I'm going to be taken out, I'd rather have a legitimate accident over flying out of a motor. Of high wind. That sounds stupid or embarrassing. I don't want to be embarrassed of anyone. Choco Valley has actual chocolate. I feel like these courses would go down if everyone covered their eyes and wore helmets. Speech, kids, train, not a fast one, still a train, also big and bigger balls. DK jump apart this year because of that bridge section. Not only do I not trust this part, but apparently it needs to fall off the waterfall. I wouldn't drive here. Is this one actually made of cheese? It should be higher for lactose intolerant people, but not lactose intolerant. Lower, I guess, so this is fine. The first ice course. The lack of warmer gear on these characters concerns me, but this one looks just pleasant enough where I'm gonna let it slide. It's also fortunate that that frozen pond has very ice. Good job, big loop, big space. The only major obstacles of danger that can possibly be warded off, I feel like going around is the problem here, same with the rooms, including the phone. Not bad at analyzing traffic, but I feel like Shroom Ridge has enough wide roads where passing these slow cars isn't that big of a deal. Plus, the roads have no issues that just require a competent driver. Where are these cars going? Where did any of these cars go in the traffic? They're just loops. I've unironically lost hours of my life wondering what these people do. Oh yeah, also the bridge. This is a mall on a weekday. Not really that much of an issue, but again, cars. What's up with the cars? Swamps or sand. Bangkok Rush has this bouncing part. I feel like it will not work. I feel like it will fall through. Robot, road that has the Coliseum part. I don't think it's safe or legal. You're not supposed to mess with it. And then there's Sleepy Springs. How often is this bathroom used? Is it a giant bathroom? Who uses this bathroom? Is this the same house as the Ribbon Road track? Is it safe for the tiny racers to be around the giant amounts of living chemicals? Is this a good hygiene? Should we trust the sink, toilet, or even the bathtub? Who dropped the engagement ring down the drain? Who left all the water running despite the drain? I love this course, but I also don't. Time to go over anti-gravity. That's the gimmick introduced in 8. Plus, the simple ability to drive across walls, ceilings, it really adds to the variety of courses. So much can be done with this mechanic on creative levels, and there doesn't seem to be any drawbacks. Since this is meant to be an exact recreation, even though the cars have anti-gravity and there's been gravity flipping in the games, there are no seatbelts, no harnesses, no nothing. Some courses need extreme help plausible, as is so many mine. Wait, Morgan. This approach. No seatbelts, you'll fall to your death. What can I say? In this tier, these courses may be not considered what can needed to change. Just they make you say,
The dirt is gone.
Stadium, even though it's the first track to deluxe, automatically goes here because they're gonna fall and it's gonna hurt. Yeah, forget about when gliding and water get thrown into the mix. Water Park has them both. Sweet Canyon has like Culp or something. Electrodome goes upside down at one point. It's probably impossible. But if a racer fell out, I would argue they have a shot at surviving that fall. That is what I'm going with. We're making stupid straw arguments, so not everything here is in the very top of the range. The Twisted Mansion, Cloud Conquerors, and Ice Outposts are also being thrown here for those reasons, but there's still some other views that earn their spot through having living hellholes that only the turtles can survive driving. Fly turtles. Like the Ghost Scouts, I don't know how far these falls are, nor where the race specs are. Why would you host a race on one of the most dangerous parts of the road, and while it's active, and at night? This one kind of feels more like trespassing over racing. The giant fish are my name. GBA Mario Circuit, in the original, this would have been in the very beginning baby. Oh, because, unfortunately, all iterations are being looked at. This little guy is here because of the remake. I'm entirely right thinking this is a bad idea, but it's too late to go back now. There's sideways grass. I only have so much faith in Lakitu, or Lakitu. I'm gonna call him Steven. Gear is broken. One track, terrible cruise ship. There's like 2 pools. The dining center's unstable. BB's the aquarium. Also, there's no fish in it. Horrible vacation spot. Donkey Kong has this really bad habit with kids of that. When he came out, it's a little more sensible. Meant to be a public area. But DK Summit is designed with these falls in mind. Anyone can fall down. Donkey Kong does not value customer safety. How do these death pits even show up? How do they get enough room for everyday skiers? I've been at ski resorts before. This isn't like a super common thing. Same with DK Pass. I'm a little starstruck why anyone would be driving on a road on a mountainside, especially when the roads are icy. But to be fair, Donkey Kong likes bananas and wears a tie, so I can understand. Nobody talks about this, but Wario has a really inconsistent moral track. He's illustrated in this light where he looks stupid 88 times, but like he benefits everyone with his stupid. He does it for entertainment. He provides jobs for every bad thing Wario does. Here's Wario's equivalent change, and he does stuff that makes it better. With that being said, not only do I not trust this as a racetrack, but those houses that look horrible. Ever since I laid eyes on these homes, I felt nothing but guilt. This is where Tiny family. Big tree. The big it's a problem. You were raised. I feel like trespassing. I feel like I'm not welcome. All scary Christmas stuff. What's this dojo for anyway? This just makes no sense. Everything's smaller. They aren't even hiding away. Work in my ways is funny. Not only because it's distracting, open roaded work, but the voting falls here. That implies both will of course happen. And since this is the Mario version of this historical city, and it's in the Mario universe, the world has dealt with all the stuff in the World Wars. Says I'm not allowed to share or show any of that is one of the most unfortunate implications I've seen that involve the Wiki. Like, what side is Mushroom Kingdom on during all this? What side was the Goomba Kingdom on? I'm not gonna point fingers, but based on how Bowser acts as a leader, I'm saying it's more of a probability than a possibility that the old leaders of the Goomba Kingdom were on the side of the allied powers. Bowser has a limit on morals and usually targets the greater threat. I don't think Bowser befriended Germany. Aha! I have deceived you. This entire video was actually made so I could talk about the planes in Diddy Kong Racing. Aha! I tricked you. Kong Racing requires you to use cars, planes, and other grass and effects. And as I said, of course, as a character.
Keeping a stack of dirt is honestly pretty nice to have. So I'm gonna go ahead and get myself some dirt.
I don't know.
I'm gonna destroy the shovel in the process.
These are the courses that anyone involved can take a look at. Maybe I can find a phrase. Oh no. During all these ones, just about every place in the world course is probably had. I mainly see this because they go around like water hazard, or in some cases require going to water conservatory. There's big SPC waterfalls, but they're sure just water driving. At least with a few of these courses, I can make some arguments about competent drivers or something. Not here though. In fact, the same applies with lava-based courses, but the opposite. Grumble Volcano, Lakeside Park, Hot Temple, and yeah, all Bowser's castles. Lava has a habit of being hot. Hate to say it, they belong here. A lot of fire hazards, a lot of scary Bowsers. Why do you have children? Anti-gravity makes this return. Let me just say, I think of the racers that deserve this. I believe Pete's Mario Circuit has one of the highest mortality rates. Like half of this course is upside down. It's a bad racetrack and a bad Smash Bros. Stage. Shy High Falls, it has that waterfall, Dragon Dirt, but it has something, it's kind of forgettable one. View City, Bobwoods, Big Blue, Seatbelts would have worked wonders on these. Is Mario just... You're like, what is this inventions? He makes a ski resort, makes a dam, there's all this wonderful stuff, and then like icy TK death pits, scary river caverns, trees. Mario loves giving mixed signals. He needs couples therapy, that's okay. Yoshi's Island doesn't move around interactive volcanoes, geysers, hoppers, view, infants, their ships, big roads above water, and also a whole dinosaur. It's the name that could be dinosaur that eats Super Mario for all we know. At the pinball stop in here, this is slower. The ending, especially, crush everyone. I imagine this is about as stressful as running on the front lines. Weird place to put this one, but I would assume based on Mario 64, I'd assume this is a grandfather clock. And my logic is that anyone who's in a clock is gonna big hand when it gets 12 and 20 sounds like that one in my grandma's house. If that's the case, you have about 15 minutes to get in and out of there.
Kinda feels like I wasted my time building that first house now.
But you wouldn't hear that part coming. At 1 minute second feels unreliable, like I would assume the holes or something would go wrong. Big bouncy shrooms over the void. Traffic look like bomb cars. Who's driving these? I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but somebody's gotta do it. To that one guy who's gonna complain about the Mario Kart courses and Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Mario Circuit is with one Mushroom Bridge stays here. Snowboard on the edge of the bridge, also shoot out of the cannon. Broken legs 20 times. And last of all, the objective winner for the deadliest of deadlies. All the rainbow roads. At least one of them takes first place. Now, usually you can't breathe in space last time I checked. So that means all the space ones are a no-no. Even the ones you can see on the ground. Instead of having to, but I think for now. Fishing rod's gotta give out someday. In a situation where we could breathe space, the order would be from least to most dangerous. 64, double dash, 7. Original Rainbow Road. There's no rambles, alarms, jagged curves, no seatbelt could save you. This is a bad. Super Mario is setting a bad example for you. Wow. Who would have guessed a cartoon racing game would have so much inescapable amount of safety precautions ignored? I know this is the same franchise that...
Come on, I really don't get why these stupid NVT tag thingies are happening.
Well, I'm gonna skedaddle now. Call me not, because Dip is just gonna walk out here to my legs. Well, guys, I guess you really can't have shit.
Yeah, Miko just has a really distinct personality that isn't for everybody. She's not the nicest, which is usually the thing that people dislike about her. But she does live up to her kidsman, and I think she's fun. At least she stands out from the rest of the cast. Luna's story was actually one of the better ones, especially in the early days. We have an NPC at the center of it, but it's literally her uncle. It's unique to her, and we get to learn a lot of things about Luna as a character. Get to see how harshly she's treated despite never doing anything wrong herself. Is inherently a good person, yet she gets so much crap for being a Lawrence. She never provides herself, but she sure is paying for it. And no matter what she does for Mondstadt, people just can't look past the fact that she's a Lawrence. And it sucks. You feel bad for her, so when you see her uncle going around and trying to start shit again, can't help but want to stop this nonsense. And at the end of it, get to see Hula arrest her own uncle. Which, knowing how terrible her uncle was, it should be a thing, right? But I think it's still hard to arrest a family member like that. I think it was a good character moment. Doubles down on how she is at heart despite all the unfair crap that's thrown at her. Even in the early days, it's not all that bad, though we have what I exceptions, which I also mentioned in my initial video. Exceptions to the questionable writing of characters in Genshin are actually, 4-star characters. Pink Wong is definitely like early on. I think she established herself really well as a leader in video. She's not an Archon or anything, but in the time she was on screen, Hoyo made sure the players knew that she was top dog in the G state and she had the final say in defeating Osio. She even gets this great where she decided to sacrifice the Jade Chamber, which, if you don't know, has been established as a symbol of her wealth. And if you've read this character story, that she wasn't born, she has a grand story, which made it even more impactful narratively. She, as a character, has agency and was in complete control of the situation, which is pretty cool. She isn't the main character of the quest by any means, but Hoyo was able to make her up to her potential. Same with Feiyu. She was the Kiwi Archon quest, but she had a lot of incredible and memorable moments in the Inazuma Archon quest, even though she's a 4-star character from Kiwi. Feiyu is the person that helps the traveler get to Inazuma in the first place. She helps the resistance in the fight against Fujisara alongside Kazuha. She lives up to the badass fighter told she was. Special, the unique character that she is actually has a lot more depth than a lot of the 5-star characters really early on. But to be fair, most of it is in limited time events. She has an entire character arc events. She also develops a really sweet friendship with Mona in the African Sound Stars event, and I like that they continue this friendship even much later on. Now, outside of that, we also have other interesting 4-star female characters with a lot of potential, like, for example, Fukushimoku and Rosaria. But none of them are actually shown in any of the quests or even in events that much. Most of the information about them can be obtained through either hangouts or hidden tag log tags in the character story, which is fine if you're a fan of Fukushimoku and like Noel and maybe even Diana for whatever reason. They get really
Hey. The heck is doing that, Diona Shade?
Okay, so now
I mean, she is supposed to be throwing shade at all the female characters right now, though.
Right, what did you do to make it better? Why should people now go to Fontaine and they can say, hey, that's good writing? What even is good character writing? This is just my personal opinion, but good character writing is one where a character has lived up to its full potential. Two, when they have layers and have nuance to their actions.
Onions have layers.
By that I mean to develop either to their potential or have enough time to establish them and already or making us, the audience, understand them better and thus giving them layers and nuance to their actions. And I think Hoyo in the more recent years have done just that. We, for the most part, just let the characters shine on their own by giving them room to have more interactions with one another and just more time to be fleshed out. This starts being apparent with Sumire, with Nahida and Yuya being the two that stand out the most, at least for the 5 stars. There's a very specific star that stood out, but we'll get to her. Nahida being the Archon of wisdom actively expect her to act. She guides the traveler the best she can while she's being held hostage. She's also shown to be very benevolent at being at one of the kindest characters. Unfair to compare her to May, especially when we acted as the main antagonist for Zuma and the trouble with Sora not being lost her twin sister. Well, that his struggle was more about her being literally caught held captive on capable of being an Archon and filling the role of Kalibata. I think that here was great overall, especially in executions, because we get to see moments where she's empathetic and she shows a great deal of love for her people despite how they've been treating her for years. We also see her benevolence and wisdom interactions with other characters, specifically Wanderer, who was the first person to give the Wanderer a chance after his defeat. She was the one who saw the person that he be underneath of that anger and resentment. Tikia is also one of those characters that is just pleasant to be around since her initial appearance. Now, I made the mistake of not able to find when I looked at the script for that video, her story wasn't out yet, and then it took me to edit the videos. Basically, I got, and yes, it was my bad for not including. Definitely my bad, because Tikia's story quest is a good example of turning a solid side character into a memorable and great character. I think Tikia's story quest in general is what I hope every character story quest would be. Doesn't to be this massive war story quest like Zhongli and a story quest, but this story quest itself was about Ikia. If you don't remember what her story quest is about, it's a story that explores Ikia's relationship with her father Stella and her life as an eremite. It's also something that we never could have gotten in the Sphere Archon quest with 15 different things already going on at the same time. Which is why a character story quest is the perfect time to showcase things that we get to see otherwise, which includes the character's pre-established lore, or even an expansion of said lore. The NPCs that are present in the quest adds a lot to Nika instead of shifting the focus away from her. She was also allowed to show a lot of emotions and have an entire character arc about her relationship with her father in that one quest. Really, when I say I want a character story quest to be about them and not NPCs, this is what I mean. I will talk about Nika in detail later on, but before that, Koyo has also a lot of the characters is writing through their second story quest. I'm gonna start with Yulia. Now, initially, I've always found Yulia to be an alright character. She's cute and kind, and she's great to be around, but her first story quest was just not the strongest in terms of writing. The second story quest, however, first, you can basically play this whenever you want, and it surprisingly adds a lot to Yulia as a character. This quest also changed my mind about her quite a lot. In my initial video, I grouped her together as the nice girl waifu, which can be boring to some people. And while I've never said that we're not allowed to have nice girls or that it's automatically boring for not having extensive lore, my issue with Luinia and the other characters that I've lumped into that category has always been the lack of screen time in the story. In fact, I think it's nice that we have a well-listed 5-star roster for once. I think it's great that she's compassionate to complete strangers. She's a good role model. She doesn't just have a dad, but she also has a mom. Imagine that! Relationship of her parents, and she's also really well liked by her community. I personally think the whole point of her character is to be as ordinary as one can be, which isn't a bad thing, but the execution of her story quest really made her extraordinary. At first glance, her story quest should be like another big quest or a quest that focuses way too much on a random NPC, yet it doesn't. Why is that? Well, in my opinion, it's because the date sequence in the quest is not there to tell you on how cute she is as a character, because it doesn't pander to the traveler, and the NPC is there to be a convenient plot device that somehow ends up being the focus of the entire quest. They're both there with the intention of developing Luinia as a character. Luinia goes to Sumeru with the intention of gathering information of the legendary meteor shower that's been passed on in her family for generations. The desire to meteor shower was what started the Nagonohara fireworks in the first place. So as someone who's very passionate in her math, it's very natural that you would want to find inspiration the same way ancestors did. Then the NPC also serves a similar purpose. She's there to highlight kindness and compassion, which is her best trait. The same way Tuser was there to develop Child as a character by showing us the players that Child actually has a compassionate side in this story quest. Yulia is shown to be someone who's really positive and she is just so likable that you probably think of the want to help her see the her shower even if you care about her that much in the first place. The quest also shows as a person is always positive and always tries to see the good in things because she's never let go of that childlike wonder. Even the Aranara points out how Rika has a really love. Now, this isn't saying that she's immature or childish, quite the opposite actually. It means that Yuna is able to and look at life the same way that a lot of children like she has a very positive attitude about a lot of different things. She's just not jaded like most adults are. A lot of adults will think that indulging in children's dreams and fantasies is silly because, well, they're just that fantasies. They're not real. But Mia recognizes the importance of having that childlike glee and wonder when looking at life. And Yunya isn't gullible. She knows the world can be a nasty place. Her home country was at war for quite a while, so she is not ignorant to the darker sides of life. But as shown at how she is determined to help others, Yunya recognizes the importance of having a dream and holding on to that dream even in a hopeless situation. With the addition of that story quest, Yunya went from a character that's cute and nice to basically a character that you wish were real because you probably want someone like her as your friend in real life. It only took 1 hour of a well-written story quest to add so many layers to Lydia as a character, and she is finally living up to her potential. Next up is Raiden Shogun or A. Now it's impossible to talk about the saving grace of a second story quest without talking about Raiden Shogun or A. Her second story quest is what a lot of people consider to be how will you for writing. Aside from the massive war bombs, I think what made her second story quest shine was the fact that they let her have an entire character arc in that quest. It's an excellent way to show a finally has some agency and control as a character and as an archon, especially when it comes to changing her ideology and just overall on eternity. It also helps that she's forced to go against the very thing that she's created. So to an extent, she is finally held accountable for her own actions. She now has to be the very idea of eternity that she's held on for so long in the form of the Shogun puppets. And I know about still take issue with being not being punished for essentially letting a civil war happen in Inazuma. She's not responsible for it. She did let it happen. But in her story quest, she fought the Shogun puppet for 500 years. It's the same amount of time that she locked herself inside the of Euthymia, and with her showing so much determination, she was finally able to convince the damn puppet that she was in control as a person. The change in her ideology is the mark of character growth. It's also, I think, the best way for to be accountable for her actions in our conquest because it's pretty impossible and make a lot of sense if she was punished because she is the god of that nation. It's also pretty emotional with the Makoto and really just showing a character dynamic and having them show emotions is always a good thing in my opinion. That quest also has really good person mechanics, which is always plus. The only other female character with the second story quest is Nahida. Now before that, Nahida's first story quest is but I personally enjoyed it. It's very on theme for her with it being about dreams and all. If you don't remember the quest is about, the traveler and Paimon were approached by this group of people who get together to dream. Nahida destroyed the Akasha terminal at the end of the Archon quest, which stopped everyone from having their dreams harvested. So now adults are dreaming for the first time ever. This sequence of events has led to the gathering of people in an event called Awoken Dreams, where people gather to talk about all their dreams. And in this gathering, they come across Ilman, someone who's been having continuous dreams about his deceased wife, which Nadine notes as something that's extremely uncommon. We soon come to find out that this isn't an isolated incident and that someone is purposely exploiting people's desires to escape reality and also as a coping mechanism to deal with grief, which obviously isn't very healthy, as Nahida mentioned at the start of the quest. By refusing to let go of the past and choosing dreams over reality will only make it harder for people to move on with their lives. And not to mention, going back to these dreams are actually dangerous, and yeah, I like the premise. I like that the story has one central theme, and that it is dealing with dreams and grief. It also places Nahida, who is the god of wisdom, in the middle, where we get to see her guide her people. Overall, it's a good quest. I think it's on par with a lot of the other Sumeru quests we've gotten. For second story quest, I have similar opinions, with the addition of it a lot more interesting, really, because of the massive lore bomb that we got with Apep. Nahida's second story quest starts with the traveler and Nahida bumping into an elemental being in the form of a fungus, trying to look for its hope. That hope later on is revealed to be Everton, the dragon, the first ever dragon sovereign that game, mind you. It's definitely one of the more lore-focused story quests, which is always intriguing, I think, especially when it comes to lore related to the focus character. One of the biggest differences that it has with a second story quest is how there's not really much development for Nahida as a character, but in this case, it's not really a problem since we've already got a lot of development for Nahida in the Archon quest itself. This quest is a nice addition and expansion of her lore, and also to how she, as a relatively Archon, is learning about the world and its secrets alongside the traveler. One of the best story quests in Sumeru is Tihias. Yes, I know it doesn't have any importance to the lore, but it just does everything right. It's a very personal quest. It explores the dynamics of the Eremites, which is a group that she is a part of, and one of the most defining traits of her as a character. It's also very unique to Tihia because she is the only female Eremite character that we have, at least as of right now. It touches on her estranged relationship with her dad, which was already teased in the character story, and overall it is a journey of Tihia discovering the truth about her mother and the sacrifices that he made to ensure that she was able to get out of the rough lifestyle of being Eremite, and overall just him wanting her to have a better life. We get to see a lot of different sides to Tihia. I mean, we've seen a lot of her in the Archon Quest. We already know that she's dependable, kind, and strong, but we just get another layer of her story quest. We see her struggling and grieving as she learns
So
the truth
the
about
tag thing
Vega,
seems to
and
happen.
not believing that she has a deadbeat dad, but now she has to come to terms with the fact that everything her dad did was in fact for her. He wanted her to have a better life. He wanted Tihia as far away as possible from the life of an Eremite. He
Seems to be
did
whatever's on my
everything for
slot.
her, even until his very last breath. And you just feel so much for Tihia because now that she will never get that moment of reconciliation with her misunderstood mother because she's just too little too late, but also at the same time you can't really blame her because her mother never really intended for her to find out anyway. There's just a lot of raw emotions in that quest. And the best part is that we get to witness a lot of it. Like almost every moment of it actually. None of it was just offhandedly mentioned or dumped in a conversation at the end of the quest. Which is again what made her story quest stand out from the rest. Another story quest that we got in Sumir, but unfortunately is not as good as Neil's. And this isn't because Neil doesn't have an interesting backstory, because I personally think she does. She represents the creatives and the artists that's often looked down upon in a very academic driven society. She is one of the few people in Sumeru that just goes against the status quo. And you would think that Neil's story quest would be the perfect time for Hoyo to showcase the hardships that she might have had during her life, without a lot of people just looks down on her for not being a scholar. And while we do get something similar
Bruh.
to that, it just baffles me that Hoyo did this with another character that's not even playable. Yes, the values that Maya represents is in a way the same as Milu's. So then why the hell not just make it about Milu? You know, the character that we're actually here for? We didn't learn anything about Milu or the leader after the quest. We knew that Milu was brave and kind, but we already know those things from the Archon quest. The debate that she has with the scholar at the end would have been more interesting had the entire quest's focus was on her, instead of an NPC that we would never see again. Well, yes, Milu is one of the very female characters, and she doesn't have a lot of explore to back her up. Her whole shtick is that she's a good dancer and she's nice, and that's fine because when done right, ordinary characters can do endearing and interesting in their own way. Case in point, again, Ordinary characters can be interesting, they just suffer from bad NPC story quests. It feels like Universe isn't confident that they can be interesting on their own. You have to introduce random person number 626 to have a decent story. Which is bizarre considering how people are spending money on a lot of these characters that already have pre-written lore anyway. So it's not like they have to make shit up on the spot. There needs to be a balance at just how much the presence of an NPC is helping us, the players, in getting to know the five-star character, instead of it being the other way around. I don't need to know stuff about the NPC if it doesn't add to the five-star character. Learning about the character's hopes and dreams and why they do the things that they do shape compelling narratives, which is why it's so important for Hoyo to show all of these on screen. And in the moments that they do, it creates a meaningful and emotional storytelling. Now, despite my criticism of new story quests, the female characters in Sumeru are a major improvement. The 4-star female characters in Sumeru completely outshine the 5 stars like in the early days. I still think the 4 stars hold up pretty well. Candace was great in Our Conquest. Both Barizan and Myla are fun in events. Dory as well, Dory, but the 4-star that stands out the most for me at least has to be Collei. Collei has always been an important character since before Genshin even came out. She has lore that goes far beyond the main quest. She's already linked to Igari and Sino, both very pivotal characters in the Sparrow Archon quest, but she's also linked to Dottore. She has a whole backstory established in the webtoon, and she even has a really big personality change during the time gap between the webtoon and the game. It's just a bit of a shame that they never do deep into Colei's time in Mondstadt or development in the game. Most, if not all of it, happens off screen. By the time we meet her in Sumeru, she's a lot more positive than she was in the webtoon. When she first stumbled into Mondstadt after escaping from the clutches of Dottore, Collei was extremely jaded. She's been treated horribly around her because she wasn't really the strongest physically, and this caused her to be extremely distrusting of people and gods. We only see glimpses of her past trauma a few times, but I like how Poyo showed this on screen. She screams at Paimon for touching her without her consent. Through that moment, I think a lot of players realize just how fucked up Colley's situation is. Like, she has been through shit. As we saw for ourselves, just a simple innocent touch from Paimon is enough to get such an extreme reaction from her. At the end of the webtoon, Chloe follows Saito to Sumeru to learn more about the world, which is how she ended up in Sumeru, and then the traveler goes to Sumeru, and she is the first person that we meet after Hypatia. Saito bringing Chloe to Sumeru is also the start of one of the most wholesome dynamics in the game. With the release of Sumeru in the game, we also began to see Chloe have different relationship dynamics with two other very important characters, that of course being Dignity and Sino. The three of them have a very loving, healthy relationship. Dignity acts like a pseudo guardian to her, and despite him being strict and sometimes sassy, Colin knows that he has a good heart. Her dynamic with Sino is also one of the most interesting ones in the games. If you look at Colley's voice lines and how she talks to him, it's easy to get the impression that she's uncomfortable with him. She doesn't think that he's a bad person or is scary like 90% of people in Sumeru are terrified of Sino, but Colley is uncomfortable around him for completely different reasons. Sino is the person that brought Colley to Sumeru to helped her during her time in Mondstadt by sealing the Archon residue that was left inside the body by the Torrent. Sino is the one who asked for Dignity's help in taking care of Colley. Colley is also able to recognize that Sino is a good person, yet that doesn't erase the trauma that she has from the events that she went through in Mondstadt. But from the events and snippets we've got over the last year, it does seem like the relationship is improving, especially with the effort that both of them are making. I personally love Colley as a character. She feels like a real person that you will be too bad. She doesn't feel like another character to add to the roster just for the sake of it. And even without showing the details of the webtoon within the game itself, I think Poyo did a good job in setting her up as a character. We have an entire plotline set up at the start of the Archon quest. We have a resolution to that setup by the end of it. She gets cured from Elazar. She also has different relationships with various different characters, all of which are shown on screen, and all of that are foundations of what will lead and good character. So it's pretty safe to say that the Fontaine cast has a lot of well-written characters, but two women in particular stand out from the rest. Those two being Nadia and
Well,
Korea, both of whom we actually spent a lot of time with in the Archon quest. Nadia is the one that surprised me the most. Honestly, it's impressive just how much Hoyo was able to develop her character on screen. She started out fine. She approached the Traveler asking for collaboration and help in investigating the serial disappearances case, which has been established as early as we arrived in Fontaine. She introduced herself as the boss of Spina de Rosula. She also introduced Malus and Silver. And from the get-go, we know that Navia has a goal. She wanted to find the truth behind her father's death. The Traveler wanted to clear Linny's name from Frieda's accusations, so it's only natural that they joined forces. Navia added so much to the Fontaine Archon quest. You could even say that she was the heart of it. Linny would have been in the Fortress of Merpy for murder if it wasn't for her. And because we learned about why she was so determined to uncover the truth and why it's so personal to her, it makes for a compelling narrative. Especially when we get to see her be in the same room as the people who let her father die and the one who literally killed her father. This scene with Nubulat wasn't emotional because Navia was crying. It was emotionally impactful because we know how frustrated Navia was in that moment to the point that it drove her to tears. She is still grieving and yet she feels like she needs to uncover the truth by herself. And as far as she's concerned, people like Chlorine and Nubulat did nothing and will continue to do nothing. Considering how 2 out of the 5 acts of the Fontaine Archon quest were centered around Navia, the Traveler has spent a lot of time with her during their time in Fontaine. It makes her bond with the Traveler a lot more well, they did so much together, so the trust that she gives to the Traveler by the time we get to her story quest is believable. It never really felt like Navia trusted the Traveler for reason or just because they're the main character. It doesn't feel like it's unnecessary pandering towards the main character of the story because it feels like we've earned her trust. Giving her traits like compassion and affection while also directly showing scenes where she's emotional
I
and
need to
struggling
check
make her feel
something.
like Fontaine Archon Quest also did a job Navia sufficient amount of time to have entire character arcs within those 5 acts. I don't think the pacing was all over the place at all. It felt fine because the story revolved around one central theme and that being the prophecy. All of the Fontaine characters, Moita and Navia especially, have legit links to the prophecy. And I think that link to the characters and the prophecy was set up early on and in a pretty effective manner. The more that we learned
Ah,
about
right, I
Navia,
don't have the data back.
it
Fuck.
felt like we're also learning more and about the main story. It never really felt like we were off track and somehow got roped into a side quest in the middle of an intense storyline. Using Navia as an example, we meet her because she has her own motives. She wants to uncover the truth about her father. And as fate would have it, the downfall of Navia's palace is directly related to Marcel, aka Bashir, responsible for the serial murders that Charlotte
Vache.
at the very beginning of the Fontaine Archon quest. The disappearances or murders also reveal the true nature of the primordial sea water, which is heavily related to the prophecy and Ethereum's original sin. The whole thing with Callus also explains the dynamic between Navia, Lauren, and that even without the Traveler, Navia already exists as a person in Fontaine. And this is the case for a lot of the Fontaine characters. They're just able to stand on their own. They have believable relationships with one another, like Linny and Lynette. Lynette especially, even though Linny is the life star of the pair, the Arkham Quest never treated Lynette as the side character, at least in my opinion. Yes, she's the assistant and Linny is the main man of the Magic Act, but we get a backstory of why she's so reserved and why she's mostly in the background while Linny takes center stage. And a lot of Linny's motivations come from this desire to protect his siblings. Lynette especially because one, they're twins, and two, Lynette's been through one of the most perfect things one would have imagined at a young age. Lynette, even while she barely ever speaks and is mostly background to her more charismatic brother, she feels real. She feels like a real person in Fontaine with her own set of goals, motivations, hardships, all that good stuff. I've already done analysis of her as a character and the writing.
This isn't a bad CD either, honestly.
Making one of the most human characters in the game. I think none of us ever expected an Archon to be so human and relatable. Similar to Navia, I think Job in setting up as a character, Toyo was able to set up Kulina as a mystery and her on subverted their expectations when the truth fan of the way they did. There's actually two of them for an Archon storyline, and just with a different twist every time. I still think it's mostly fine. Puyo managed to accomplish what they wanted to do, and that is to make Rina a believable human character, and to tell a compelling story about the Hydro Archon. Both Navia and Rina's story quests were also good. They weren't my personal favorites, but they did add interesting stuff about the characters themselves. In Rina's story quest, she goes back on stage and receives a vision as a form of recognition and most probably gratitude for all of her sacrifices that she's made for Fontaine. While for Navia, it expanded a bit more into her mother and family outside of the Marcel case. We now know a lot more about her family and the history of this and Rosula, and it's fun. It's fun to see Navia say that she's partners with the Traveler. I think that title is well earned after everything that we together with her in the Archon quest. In contrast with how they tried to set up Ayaka's friendship with the Traveler, Navia's bond with the Traveler is just a lot more believable. Both Navia and Nina are good examples of how Toyo managed to give them enough nuance that it makes both of them feel authentic and relatable and just like a character and a real being. And that's because they showcase a lot of things about their past, what they're suffering, and how they're dealing with their suffering and how they cope with it, which are all the right ingredients for a compelling character story. Heck, those things are front and center in the Archon quest itself. You didn't need to wait for the story quest, which is so easy for players to feel connected to Fontaine characters and why they just feel like they're better written. I don't really have an issue with the 4 stars in Fontaine as well. I think the ones that are such as Charlotte, Lynette, and recently Travelers, how did you think that their presence makes the world of Fontaine feel a lot more alive? Like having Charlotte popping up in random places because she's trying to get a scoop, it's fun. It makes sense because she's a journalist and that's what she usually does anyway. And with the recent event, I ended up like Travelers more than I thought I would. She's shown to be a very badass character and looks into her backstory and why she's the perfect person to special forces of the guards. She's shown to have a lot of street smarts considering where she came from. She also has a weird, peculiar, borderline abusive father, and I like that despite her trouble in Shelter still managed to be a person. Which brings me to the question, why are there no events centered around the 5-star female characters, aside from being important? So we've already established that a big chunk of what makes the characters in Genshin
Because lolly bait, lol.
is the NPC center quest and just the lack of screen time, which translates to not enough time for them to be developed. Now, yes, the complaints I just said can be applicable to the male characters as well, but somehow the male characters, some of them have the focus of one of the most memorable events in Genshin's history. I say, like, if not for the people Dragon Spider event, most of us would have probably forgotten Albedo by now, especially with how forgettable his story quest was. I should
You made me remember him again, actually. I've forgotten all about him.
was his story quest. We get most of his lore from the Dragon Spider events, which looking back, I think just ran out of Albedo lore that's not related to Conria, and that's why we haven't gotten any more Dragon Spider events in the last 2 years. But anyway, tangent aside, the road that we have got female characters featured in events before, like Mona and Official and recently Chevrolet, and we have gotten a good chunk of development and even backstory through those quests, which is why I'm genuinely curious why there's still so few events focusing on female 5-star characters. And I do, as a group, like, I genuinely want to see a character featured in an event the same way Albedo was. I have one character in mind that I really want to see featured in an event because I personally think she is the literal walking definition of a missed potential. And yes, I'm talking about Komomi. And before you say anything, yes, I know she's been featured in events before, but the events were about her. We learn anything new about her either. I would also love to dive you into the characters I want to see getting an exclusive event. We had multiple lantern rides and multiple events in way and just as the main character, yet we never really see more of Nami outside of her conversations with Albertina. And Kaching, there's so many interesting things about Kaching. Kaching has an entire arc about her beliefs and ranks Lapis in her character story, and yet on the event that she was featured in as the main
Slightly
character, or we
dirty.
decided to focus
That's
on her
new.
working too much, as if we haven't done that before. An event doesn't always have to be too serious. Like, it can also be fun. Like, I'm sure a lot of us enjoyed the annual summer event. Like, I'm not gonna complain about having a event centered around our most adorable characters in the game. What I'm trying to say is that why can't we get an event similar to the
I know it.
2.9
That's actually
Albedo
normal.
event for the more heavy characters, or characters like Ganyu, who has a lot of behind them. Like, she partook in a little ancient war, focusing on the more side of her, like how she's overworked again to just make her seem like she's a boring character when she's not. And if we can't have that in a permanent story quest, at least let us have it in a limited time event. These events can be memorable, showing different sides of a character and also showing different character dynamics. For example, I think the first league event was memorable not only because of how fun it was, but also because it showcased fun sibling dynamics. Like, we have Albedo and Klee, Kea and Luke, and of course Jean and Barbara. Now, the focus wasn't entirely on Jean and Barbara, but at least we got to see them interact. We now know a bit more about Jean and Barbara's relationship through the vets. We've always known that they're sisters and that they grew apart ever since their parents divorced, but seeing how they still care for one another despite everything is nice. It's just nice to be able to see the relationships that these characters have and not having to rely on voice lines or various walls of text to know more about them. I think Mel Fischel and Shin Yan are again the best examples of female characters that's gotten most of their development in limited time events. Like, we've obviously got a lot of character appearances in events, but these three in particular got a lot of their motivations, goals, backstory, and even relationships showcased in an event. We finally get to see why Luna is so broke and her feelings towards practicing astrology and how it can be challenging for her emotionally and mentally. She can see the future and yet she can't do anything about it or change it. And we also get to see her come to terms with it. Fischl, she has an entire character arc about how she came to terms that she is both Amy and Fischl in the Golden Apple Archipelago event. In fact, I think the first time Fischl has ever broken character was also in an event, which was the Unreconciled Stars event. Same event where she met Toda for the first time. I feel like Hoyu can develop a lot of their characters through events if they wanted to, but considering how they're still time limited, a lot of players would probably miss out on it. I just wish there was a way for players to experience past events. I don't know, they could have it stored somewhere and not give the same rewards or any rewards. Just let the newer players have an option to experience the event quests, especially the ones that
True.
add so much to the lore and character development. Gacha games are usually full tropes, right? And I've complained about them. Hoyo does them, but how can Hoyo or trophy waifus? And yes, despite my criticism, I personally think that Hoyo has done a good job in the concept of a good female character. Dihya is a good example. She's part of the Eremites, a group known to be violent and mostly known to be mercenaries. Dihya is a mercenary herself, and she is tough, like she is strong, but she is also shown to have she's fanatically beautiful, and in her own character story, she tells us she recognizes the importance in grooming and keeping her hygiene in check. She also has a lot of interest in makeup, something that not a lot of the